G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 152, and of course we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be going over a recap for the round 3 matchups with some teams that really need some work going into the rest of the campaign. You're looking at Carlton, Essendon and Port Adelaide. We're also going to be taking a look at a rule tweak that is going on throughout the rest of the season, our AFL fantasy recap, our preview to the new round and much, much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs. He looks at his options and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do just this! But this guy has flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, co-host, my brother is with me. Of course, we get to the Easter weekend. Do you think there's going to be any sort of love for Easter for Port Adelaide? Because, oh boy, they've looked pretty poor.
No, I think it's kind of where I thought we were going to be. But the optimism of the new coach, I thought, may give us a bit of a boost. But I think Port Adelaide are destined for the bottom 6.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably looking that way. I think wildcard round is a way off considering, everyone, I kind of expected that if Port got off to a good start, maybe they could go for that. But losing to 2 teams from last year's bottom 4 bottom 3.
Yeah.
Pretty convincing fashion. Not an ideal start for the Power.
No.
But let's quickly recap the round that was, because big games over the weekend. So a couple of teams did have the bye, but we started with the Cats up against the Crows way back on Thursday. Crows were robbed again. That made your weekend a little bit more better.
It's the weekend was looking really good until Sunday.
Until Port Adelaide had to come out and play, unfortunately. So, I mean, the Crows, they're kind of robbed, but I mean, they probably weren't going to win that game.
No, I can't be saying much because I'm too biased if I say that. Oh well, they were.
Oh, come on, go a bit.
Oh well, you know it's happened a lot, but sometimes you can't really say one decision changes the game. They've don't put your team in, don't put yourself in that position. You should.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
I mean, does that happen? I remember a showdown would have been off maybe 5-10 years ago now with Riley Thilthorpe hitting the. Was it Riley Thilthorpe?
No, it was Josh Jenkins.
Josh Jenkins did the post or whatever. Yeah. I mean, you probably would have gone back there and be like, oh, you got fucking robbed. But I mean, yeah, I get Crows fans would be freaking ropeable the amount of times this sort of stuff has happened. But I mean, they play Fremantle this weekend, another tough opponent. They haven't got off to a good start, the Crows. They're 1-2. They lost their home game against the Dogs, which you expect them to win. They do have a tough start to the season, but questions are probably going to be asked of Adelaide if they don't win this weekend. There could be a team that's under the spotlight.
Yeah.
After that, we got to Collingwood against the Giants, and I mean, Collingwood won. It was a pretty scrappy affair. Collingwood don't really look that great. Honestly, I think a wildcard spot's probably where their benchmark is probably sitting right now. I don't know what the hell was going on in Fox Footy with them suggesting that, can they win a premiership with their good defence? Like, Darcy Moore's injured again. I mean, this team can't win a premiership. Like, they can't kick a goal.
They can't get... They haven't even got 100 points yet this season. They'll struggle to kick 16 goals, and you need to be able to kick 16. You need to be able to put 100 points on the board.
Yeah, consistently.
Yeah.
Until you get to finals, that's where you get yourself in the best spot. But the Giants, on the other hand, they're not going to make finals. They are in all sorts right now with injuries.
Yeah, no, they just their defense has got nobody in there. They
probably got lucky they did play Collingwood last week because they probably would have got beaten by 10 plus goals depending on the opponent.
Yeah.
Now they've seen, I think Sam Taylor could be out until the mid-season. They were expecting him maybe round 6 or round 7, but now we're looking after a mid-season bye for the Giants now that Sam Taylor returns. Really unfortunate for them. Got the Lions and the Saints up next. Lions got their first win of the season. Terrible jumper clash between the two. I don't know who decided that with the... I mean, I love the Fitzroy jumper that they use, but why...
Well, you don't play it. Yeah, no, it's just...
Pretty stupid.
You couldn't see it. You couldn't see the difference.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it was another scrappy affair. It hasn't been a great start. Like, a lot of games have been pretty, scrappy affairs, I would say. There's been some really good games, but there's been a lot of these sort of mediocre sort of games so far. But St Kilda, they lose. They're 1-3 now going into their bye, and a lot of question marks being asked of some of their big recruits, especially Tom Koning.
Which is what was going to happen once he signed that huge deal.
Yeah.
And the scrutiny was not going to go away if he started horribly, and he has.
Yeah, I think it was Damien Barrett I think it was yesterday or today, said that he's won maybe one ruck battle in his first 4 games so far, which I think's probably fair, I'd say. And also, I think back to that into the last year when the rumours started to circulate regarding Tom Nakoning getting paid all this money, being now one of the highest paid players in the game. And a big reason why Lee Galea didn't join the Saints is because they paid too much money to all these other players. I just think back now and think, you have Rowan Marshall on your list, a quality ruckman, like one of the top 5 in the game. You could have picked up Lee Galea, one of the up-and-coming defenders in the game, which would really help out. I mean, the one thing that I would say so far this year that's really helped with their recruiting was Jack Silvani, because then it's given the license for Cal Wilkie to, use the ball a bit more, which is something that he's really good at, and then he can play a lot more as an intercepting game. And he's had a really good start to the season. But imagine if you did have a Lee Galea type back there just to help them out.
Yeah.
Alex Taru's had to go forward as well, which, he's done well. He's done okay, but do we really want Alex Taru playing forward?
No.
It shows how much they need Max King, but you got more chance of winning the lottery than him playing more than 10 games in a season.
They just... The only one who seems to be playing well at the moment is Liam Ryan.
Yeah, Flanders is doing okay, I'd say, but Jack Steele's probably doing better.
Jack Steele looks like he's playing really good football.
Yeah, that's not just on the AFL fantasy point of view, that's just in general. He's playing very good footy for the Melbourne. He's probably sitting there right now like, oh boy, you traded me for a 3rd round pick or something, and I'm sitting here right now playing in a team that's done better than you so far this season. But yeah, it'd be interesting after the bye if St Kilda can get it together. Messiah, Wangani Miller seems to be the only option, and it seems like they're trying to play him. It's a little bit different with Tom Nakoning. Nakoning looks like he's just shut up shop and just said, okay, I'm getting paid my millions now. But it looks like Wangani Miller, it looks like he's trying to do too much. It looks like St Kilda are trying to get him to do too much.
Yeah, it's just like...
You got to let him play his role. The way he played last year.
Doesn't need to change his role. Yeah, he doesn't need to change his role. His role was perfect, and he was doing it really well.
Yeah.
You let him shine in that position, kind of like Dacos. Give him a bit more midfield time. That's obviously fine, but what with Dacos, they're not going to chuck him full forward.
Yeah.
They've chucked him at full forward when he's been slight injuries in past.
Yeah,
but they're not going to change him into a forward.
Yeah, and Wangani Malera as well. Like a big reason why he went full. Did he even go? He played a little bit of forward in that game, obviously last year, the famous one when he won the game against Melbourne. But he didn't exactly play like key forward that whole game.
No,
he didn't. It's not his role. Like he is a very capable forward, but he's not. That's not really his shtick. I think it's not. They've got enough players down there that can play that role. He can drift forward from the midfield. I think that's a really good way he can play because when he's up against another midfielder, he's obviously going to win most battles. But when he's up against a defender 1-on-1, he hasn't got that strength to push an opponent out of the way.
No.
Then we had Fremantle up against Richmond. Not really much to say here. Freo just butchered it in front of goal. 13 goals, 25 in the end.
Yeah,
so they could have absolutely obliterated the Tigers. Interesting game this week against Port Adelaide. We'll get to that a little bit later, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Then we got to Essendon up against North Melbourne. Absolute crappy contest. Bombers kind of had a chance, but they lose in the end. North Melbourne, after that big win against Port Adelaide in round 1, they lose against the West Coast Eagles, and then a tough win against Essendon. I think everyone who jumped on the bandwagon of the Roos, I'd be pulling it back a little bit.
I think you're looking at it this week. You haven't really heard a lot about, I know it's only a couple of days after they won, but it's not like the same excitement as after they beat Port Adelaide. It's like when they beat Port, it was like, oh, this is their change. This is their change. It's like, oh wait, they lose to West Coast, then they beat Essendon. We're not going to go all back out for North Melbourne again, but
they got Carlton this week.
This is their best chance to beat them, and they've been pretty much humiliated every single Good Friday they've played. Yeah. So this is their best chance to beat them.
After that, we move to the game of the round. Port Adelaide up against the West Coast Eagles. First, we'll talk about West Coast. They are looking pretty good at the moment. They've strung 2 wins together, which is something that North Melbourne haven't been able to do in a very long time. They win in Adelaide Oval of all places. They look like they've got their rebuild well and truly up and away. We'll talk. I got a question for our rate it or hate it segment a little bit later regarding the Eagles, but they look pretty good right now.
Yeah, they seem to, once they really decided they had to actually rebuild, and Andrew McWalters decided that he needs that time to develop them. He's doing it.
Yeah.
And he's seen the all the recruits and stuff like that. Job Shanahan picked 30 somehow. He went all the way out to pick 30. Willem Dersma, Harley Reid, and just some some diamond out of the rough with like Tom McCarthy, and even though Murdoch didn't play on the weekend, they're finding some.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking like Devin Robertson, who's been brilliant so far, got suspended for one fucking game. What are you doing, bro? Fuck. Anyway, they've picked up these players, they've moulded this group, and look, I mean, I still think they're a long way away, probably at least 2 or 3 years away from even potentially being a wild card team. But because the teams they've beaten are North Melbourne and Port Adelaide, like no one really expected them to do much this year. It'll be interesting this week how they do against the Swans at home. If they can really put it up to them, potentially even steal it, like at home.
The good thing is that they're coming off 2 wins, then coming into a game at home
against a team who's off the bye.
Who's off the bye. So if they start well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. But Port Adelaide, what do we do from here? Like, they got rid of Ken Hinkley. This is the guy they brought in, Josh Carr. They wanted to have the plan that
fresh
he was
voice.
Take over, fresh voice. And they're 1-2. They have lost to North Melbourne and West Coast, who have finished down the bottom of the ladder last year. Everyone would have expected that Port Adelaide would have been 3-0 right now. I would have expected it anyway. They went into all these games as favourites.
In the worst case scenario they were 2-1, but they're now 1-2 in 3 weeks, and. Yeah.
What do you think as like a Power fan in the first 3 weeks of the season? Like, I mean, you messaged me pretty quick after that game saying sack Carr, but I mean, what are your thoughts like at the moment with the Power?
It's still the same response, which is what I've been saying for 2 years. You need a key defender. Like the defense of Radicalier, Alia, and Zerk Thatcher when he's in, he's not going to get you a win. He's not going to hold up. And we're leaking too many points at the moment. And, I think it was a strong statement to not play Ollie Wines on the weekend. But when you need the experience around you, to chuck in a Will Brodie, who hasn't played professional football at the top level in 3 years, maybe longer than that, was a big call. I would have played Wines easily. And when you've got...
Especially when Rosie's out, too.
Yeah, when you don't have Rosie, you've got a Butters who teams are going to target him. You have a big body in Wines that can sort of protect him. I think it was a big call and a major mistake.
Todd Marshall was out too, and he's had a pretty good start to the season. Well, he's played okay.
In his new role, Whitlock's played alright, and
he had some good moments.
Yeah, I think it was just the big moments. Is that when everything's happening at that moment, Port Adelaide didn't really have a plan B. They kind of just...
it was Zach Butters or bust, and as soon as he was like, because he didn't really have that mega game. Like, he was definitely definitely Port's best player, but wasn't his like best game.
No.
And he had to play his best to get them over the line because the Eagles just were too strong. And yeah, I mean, one thing I did want to bring up as well is David, Kane Corns called it out at the end of the week, saying that the Power have hit rock bottom and fully need to fully embrace a rebuild. While David Koch, the chairman of Port Adelaide, said they are rebooting rather than a traditional rebuild.
I don't like that.
No.
I don't like when you say that sort of stuff. It's kind of like what West Coast did for 3 years before they really decided to go for it.
Do you think it's honestly a rebuild stage?
I don't.
I mean, it's been a while since it obviously brings up a lot of nightmares from Port Adelaide. Because, back in 2012, 2011, 2010, 2019, those years for Port were dismal.
Yeah.
For many, many years, they were just irrelevant as a football club. But unfortunately, what they've done with this list is they've got a few A graders like Rosie and Butters, and then Georgiades probably as well.
Yeah.
But then it and probably Alia too. But other than that, they drop off pretty quickly.
I think all we had to look at was the matchup on the weekend between Port Adelaide and West Coast. How many players have we got in the draft in the last 4 or 5 years? Really, the only positive one was Joe Berry. Like Horn Francis, we traded to get him back in.
Yeah.
Besides from that, not really a lot. really.
And they've neglected it for a long time.
And they neglected it this year, 100%. They neglected it. They got Jack Watkins from the our Sandford side,
which is surprisingly, he's probably been one of their better players.
Yeah, and he's played well the last couple of weeks. And it's like you're relying on a block. You're basically saying to everybody in the league that we've got the list.
I feel like when you're not going to the draft at all, you're saying we're going up for it. We're in the window to win it.
Yeah, and it's like we don't have the list to win it.
Yeah. So, what did Port do now? Do you think they just play the kids for the rest of the year? What do they do? Oh, actually, this is a question I wanted to ask. With Zach Butters, I feel like he's gone.
I think he's gone now. Yeah, there's no way that he stays with the way Port Adelaide are playing at the moment.
If that's the case, which we probably assume, I think Port Adelaide should be going, okay, you go, we'll get as much back as we can for you, but you throw that money, because Port Adelaide already have a lot of money in there to use, throw it at a key defender from somewhere in the competition. Brendan Cox for Fremantle's SA boy.
I've always said Cal Wilkie, even though he's always denied wanting to come home, but on the last postseason, they said he explored looking at somewhere else, so why not see if Cal Wilkie wants to come home?
Offer him the $1.7 million. Like, honestly, he's one of the best defenders in the game.
He's probably he's worth more than Tom DeConey. I'm sorry, he is worth more than Tom DeConey.
Well, obviously.
So, yeah.
But I do think that they probably need a bigger defender. Like, I mean, even Jordan Butts is coming out of contract. Like, I know he's at the Crows, but he's someone you could look at.
Yeah.
Like, a big key defender. Like, even just go to Sam Taylor and say, hey, we'll offer you this amount of money. Like, some big defender Port Adelaide desperately need.
Yeah.
Like, they can build they can get another midfielder around that sort of mould. Obviously, you can't get Zach Butters. You can't recreate him. But you can get a player. Like, bring in a couple of players that are potentially, B grade, who just can't get into the team at the moment, or someone else, like, depending on who he goes to, let's say a Collingwood, I don't know, offer it to bring someone in from Collingwood, or if it's a Hawthorn, maybe a Cam McKenzie, or
the Bulldogs.
Bulldogs ask for start at Ed Richards and then you work your way down with a Matt Kennedy or something like that. But that's where you start from. And then I think for sure they have to go to a key defender. That's what they need to do. If Zach Butters is going to go, use that money to go for a big defender. Because you won't be able to in a few years with Tasmania coming in.
No, yeah. And this is, to be honest, it's probably with a lot of teams in the bottom six. This is the draft that you kind of have to go for it. You have to go for the trade table. You have to go for the draft. And Port Adelaide have got a few draftees coming through for the father sons, and I don't think, and they're not going to be ready-made defenders or ready-made footballers. Really, they're not going to.
Not straight away.
So you got to go and see if one of those defenders from South Australia want to come home, and Brendan Cox or Cal Wilkie or just any of them. Just put out the feelers and see what comes back.
I mean, you got to at this point. We're Port Adelaide are. Finally, we get to the game that most people are talking about. I feel like Port Adelaide got a little bit lucky this week. The Carlton lost.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that when Melbourne were coming back, I'm like, thank fuck, we're not gonna be the one talking about a lot as much as if Carlton won that.
Well, obviously Carlton shit the bed again. It just watching the game as well. It just felt inevitable that Melbourne were just going to run over the top of them. Yeah. And Melbourne, to their credit, they look pretty good. They look exciting. They look like a new team. And Stephen King's got them in a good frame of mind.
It's amazing what happens when you basically put all your money in the one bloke. And you basically give him the keys to the midfield and you say, Cozzy, do it. That second half, I watched just the last quarter, and he's just like, why is no one stopping that cunt?
Yeah.
He'll win you the game, and he did.
Yeah. And Carlton, I think, sent George Hewitt to him late in the game. It's like, what are you doing?
It's too late.
It's too late.
Too late. You're up by 40 points. The only way you lose the game is basically from two players, and it's Gawn and it's Cozzy Pickett.
And the thing is, if you stop Cozzy Pickett, Gawn's got no one else there to do. I mean, to be fair, there are a couple of good players at the D's as well. You saw Caleb Windsor had probably one of his best games of his career. Tom Sparrow was quite good. Jack Steele was brilliant. But if you just stopped Cozzy Pickett at halftime, like sit someone on him at halftime, say, look, we can't lose this game if Cozzy Pickett's shut down.
Yeah. If Cozzy Pickett gets shut down, there's no way. And if we lose, at least they've tried something. Yeah. Carlton, at least they tried something and said, all right, well, their best player is Cozzy Pickett. We'll chuck someone on him, And if somehow they miraculously win this game, at least we put our best tagger on him.
Yeah.
And if he somehow kicks 3 goals, well, he's had a magnificent game. But you just watch him do it, and you're like, and everyone in the whole world is like, the one player for Melbourne that's going to win them the game is Cozzy, and he does it.
Yeah.
You've got to do something.
I think it almost felt like Melbourne were like, we didn't do it to Nasiah last year. Why is Carlton not doing it to us this year? Like, it just felt so obvious that it was going to happen. And Carlton, again, just fall to a heap. I think it's 7 or 8 times now they've been up by 20 plus points in a half time or something and have just gone from just lost it. Michael Voss's job, it's only because it's the AFL. If it was any other sport around the world, he would have lost his job after that game.
Oh, 100%. If it was, and if you just look at it, if Tom Lynch kicked straight, they'd be none and 3 at the moment, and they should be, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean the where they're sitting at the ladder right now flatters them. Really.
Well, none of 4, isn't it?
Sorry.
No, none and 3. Yeah, none and 3. Yeah,
they'd be none and 3. Yeah, because they played and they're ready to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One question I'd ask is, who do you think gets sacked first, Voss or Scott?
I think Voss.
I agree, because I think that Brad Scott. I feel like Voss has a little bit more to work with, not much, but I think he has a little bit. I mean, he has a dual Brownlow medalist. He has Walsh, who almost won a Gary Ayres medal only 3 years ago. He's got a 2-time Coleman medalist. He's got an All-Australian key defender.
Yeah,
they've always had the spine for a very long time. Carlton, they've had the spine. But it's always the periphery that just don't work for him.
The thing is also, I heard this. I heard this today that the payout clause that Brad Scott will get is huge, and
it's over
they've had to do it obviously with James Hird, Ben Rutten, and I think someone else as well over the last 15 years. So will they really want to do it again? No. Yeah. And I think that will force Essendon longer before they get rid of him. It
does make it is an interesting point, because we did see how West Coast with Adam Simpson, they kept him on for an extra 6 months basically to a year.
So they could,
because basically he was going to get such a huge payout. And I mean, it kind of delayed a little bit more of their rebuild as well. But I mean, they're a big Victorian club too. Like, how long do they wait before they make the decision? And the only one I see, Ken Hinkley, like, he's done really well in commentary so far this year. I don't know if you've listened to him much.
Yeah, I've listened to him.
He's given a great insight.
Port Adelaide.
Yeah, but he gives a great insight into the current coaching landscape. And it's just like, he wants to get back in there. He needed a year or 2 off, but he wants to get back in there. Carlton and Essendon most likely are going to have a head coaching job at maybe season 10, you would imagine, with both of them. Adam Simpson's currently mentoring Carlton's Michael Voss, but I think over the week he just said that they were shit, basically, anyway. So there's going to be 2 head coaches, one premiership coach in Adam Simpson and one very successful coach in Ken Hinkley. How long do you wait?
I think you got to go now.
You've also got Nathan Buckley. I know obviously he's linked to Tassie very heavily, and you've also got John Longmire as well. There are big coaches out there that could be ready to go. I feel like you can't wait.
Yeah,
I feel
you got it.
Maybe you just have to bite the bullet with Essendon. Do what obviously way back, but Melbourne did with Paul Roos. Someone needs to sit with Paul Roos, sit with Adam Simpson, Ken Hinkley, maybe not Ken Hinkley, because I don't think you'd want to do that again with Josh Carr's situation, but sit there with a John Longmire or an Adam Simpson, say, we're going to give you the Godfather deal, but you're going to have someone on your right hand to basically take over in 3 years. Maybe that's the option, because Essendon can't. We saw how quickly Melbourne turned it around. Because I actually plenty of video talking about how the switch from Paul Roos to Simon Goodwin to a premiership with Melbourne. It took them 8 years. We remember how bad Melbourne were in the early 2000s, late 2000s, when they did the tanking scandal and all that sort of stuff. Essendon have been waiting for over 20 years just to win a final.
Yeah.
What do they need to do? They've just gone through coach after coach after coach. Obviously, the drug scandal hit them really hard, obviously. But we're 10 years past that, and they still haven't got anywhere near winning a final.
Yeah.
It just begs the question, like, maybe one more time, Brad Scott, either just have to bring in someone to help him, or you just let him go.
Yeah, and the
just
same
bring
thing.
someone else in.
And the same thing with Voss. Like, It doesn't seem like how many people you bring in, it's not going to change. You know, it's been like this since their prelim 3 years ago.
They didn't evolve with the game. The game quickly turned in. I mean, to be fair, they kind of got unlucky. The fact the game turned from 2023 to 2024 really quickly. The game cleared out from more stoppage base to a high pace handball game. But if they didn't change, and other teams adapted really quickly, but they didn't, and they almost refused to.
Yeah.
And Michael Voss, we've seen time and time again that, like, even in that game in opening round against the Swans, they dominated their one-wood, which is their clearance and stoppage game. Once the ball got on the outside in the second half, the Swans got their forward handball game going. It was over. They couldn't keep up. And Jagger Smith looks good, but you can't rely on a 4-gamer to get you to the next stage. So
no.
I think Voss has gone first.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on for the recap from the new round. That went pretty long, but I guess we were just complaining about Carlton and Port Adelaide. So let's get into our Rate It or Hate It segment. Of course, the fan favourite, Andrew Dillon, just absolutely loved it. Came to Adelaide today, just coming. He was talking a little bit about Gather Round, but he was really just coming here to let us know how great the segment is. First, Rate It or Hate It. Carlton should trade Patrick Cripps at season's end.
Yeah, I rate it.
Rate it?
I
Okay.
rate it. I think you have to. I think he's done a lot for the game, a lot for Carlton. But what now? Well, they've just signed Walsh for 7 years or so. What other trade value have you got in that team? Really, what have you got? You're not going to get anything from any of the midfielders. The Ruckman's not going to give you any. Ruckman midfielders. There's not much there.
The only one you could kind of maybe see is Wiedering.
Even
Mackay.
You wouldn't get a third, probably a late second, early third.
I feel like you get at least a first rounder for him, maybe one.
You get
if you're Charlie Curnow, who Charlie Curnow had injury issues at Carlton, and he got 3 first rounders. Now obviously Sydney had to pay overs, but I feel like a first rounder or 2 for Harry Mackay. But again, that's what they do.
But yeah, well, what do you got? You got Mackay, Wiedering, Cripps. He's not going to win a premiership at Carlton, so would he be inclined to leave and see if he can win a premiership somewhere?
Yeah.
And help some of the, throw it out there, the Giants, for example. They don't have a lot of, they've got youth coming through. They've got a lot of experience, but a lot of that has been injured the last couple of seasons. Would he be inclined to go to Sydney Giants and see if he could win one there? If he would, or go back to Perth where he's originally from and, maybe, I don't know, go to Freo or go to West Coast and he can, really speed up West Coast rebuild. So I do rate it, actually.
Okay. I kind of hate it, to be honest, because I think that he is such a leader. I feel like it's worse. It is the smash the glass to hit the emergency button kind of scenario that you do not need to do unless it is absolutely dire straits. But, I mean, if they are going to just completely gut things like Richmond, then maybe that is the idea. Maybe, but I honestly think that he's probably second. Wiedering would be up the top for me. Then Cripps, then Harry Mackay. I'd let Harry Mackay go first. Try and get rid of something for him. But again, they don't really have another key forward to use. And to be fair as well, even though I think it was on Agenda Setters, they were talking about how Harry Mackay's done shit over the first couple of weeks. Fair enough, but also the game plan of Carlton has not changed. They just continue to bomb it on top of his head.
Yeah.
It's not his fault that they can't kick it to him in front of him. To be fair, Mackay needs to lead up a bit more too.
Yeah,
he needs to stop standing calling for it on top of his head as well, which is something that Charlie Curnow's got to fix at the Swans. We saw him in that game. It'll be interesting to see how he goes this week. Next question. West Coast have a better list than Essendon, Carlton and Port Adelaide. Rate it or hate it?
I kind of rate it. Yeah. I think Essendon, they've got the forwards. They've got Kako, Caddy, but no one else. Their midfield, yes, is not existent really without Merritt, and Caldwell's played all right, but nothing really there. Their defense is like bloody, horrible.
Hot knife through butter, straight through them.
Carlton's is like, we've basically just talked about that one. And Port Adelaide, they've got the midfield. They've got Georgiadis up front, but they've got no defense. And, it's a lot longer for them. If you said it was between Port and West Coast, I'd find it 50-50. But with all of those, it's hard to say. I reckon West Coast are a better look at it.
I mean, I think we talked about this last week when they beat North Melbourne. It's a little bit of recency bias as well. We talk about the Eagles. We've got to remember that they only won one game last year.
And they've won 2 within the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but the team itself, like their forward line looks really solid now with Waterman playing as healthy. Job Shanahan, I mean, that mark last week. Let's not compare it to Leo Barry, all right? Do you see that? Someone compared it to Leo Barry. It's like, bro.
Matthew Lloyd, and it's like, it was a great mark, and I watched the whole game, but I watched the last 2 minutes when I was at work on break, when it literally was kicked long, and he marks it, I was like, "You fucking kidding me? He's actually marked that with it in that pack."
Yeah.
But no, it's not. It's like, yes, it's Leo Barry-esque. It's like, come on,
Grand final on the line to win it, break it to the 72-year premiership drought compared to a win at Adelaide Oval on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, maybe. I mean, it kind of looks similar, maybe, but I mean, anyway. Then you got obviously the midfield. Harley Reid looks fit, looks strong, looks confident.
Yeah, it's there. As football is these days, if you have pressure in the midfield, it helps your defense out a lot, and that's just the query with the West Coast, obviously, really. But they're in 2 years into a rebuild. You're not gonna. You're gonna find some players. Harry Edwards. I
mean, their defense looks pretty solid now too. Like you got Ruben Ginbey playing a little bit above his weight, but he's still showing some signs. Tyler Young's into the team from the Tigers. Brendan Starkovich hasn't even played a game yet. He is going to be a great addition when he comes in. There's a lot of things that they can work with, and I think that they probably are up there. They probably beat all 3 of those teams. Yeah. North Melbourne, I mean, probably behind North Melbourne, probably behind the Tigers. Well, the Tigers haven't had a great start to the season either.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, they could also be one. They could have got a win against Carlton, though.
Yeah. So, you look at that, you think those 5 or 6 teams are probably going to be your bottom 6. It's just like, watch the order, really. Yeah. If you look at it, Melbourne, the way they're playing at the moment, they probably just, and a lot of this is obviously recent in the start of the year, and you're seeing West Coast and Melbourne playing really well. They've got to get through 24 games of the season. Same with Port Adelaide, same with North Melbourne, same with all of them. So when is it going to fatigue? Because I think Richmond lost like the last 11 games. Essendon's lost 16 in a row.
Yeah,
it's like when all the excitement of the start of the season, but when the tough gets going in winter, who's going to be there? Which ones are going to shine? Which ones are going to show promise? And
which ones are going to give up on their season when they know they can't make finals, and which ones are going to be fighting it out for, fight out the rest of the season, even though the season's gone. Yeah. And the final question is, Xerri shouldn't have been suspended for wiping blood on an opponent.
He shouldn't have.
Do you rate that or do you hate that?
Oh no, I hate that. He deserves weeks.
Did you hear what Tony Shaw had to say?
No.
All right, I'll play this for you. You let me know what you think after you hear it.
Just going to throw it up, and you're most likely, because of the precedent, but can we get better than that a bloke misses out of the game of football and doesn't help the chances of your footy club having to... Can we just apologise in a fine of 5-10 grand? You shake the hands of the bloke, say, sorry, I lost the plot, and let it go. But they will. I think he'll get a week. But does it have to happen? I'm not sure. I'd rather just a fine and he plays another day next week,
Now, I don't know if Tony Shaw actually saw what happened on the weekend, but he wiped blood on another opponent. What is he talking about when he says, they're shaking hands and... Is he got dementia? Like, what the fuck is he on about? Like, he wiped blood on an opponent. Yeah,
there's a difference between, like, patting someone's head, like, 2 weeks ago to, doing that sort of thing and wiping on someone else. That's a different... It's not...
it's gross.
It's gross. You don't do that.
It's not right. You can't do that. And like, I think someone made the point of like, it's literally on the line of like spitting on someone. Yeah. It's like, I agree. Like, you can't fucking, you cannot wipe your nose blood on someone. It doesn't, like, 3 weeks, I was a bit surprised by that. Like, I don't necessarily think it's a bad decision, 3 weeks, but I mean, obviously that's
what did you think it should have been? What did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be 2. I thought maybe it was going to be 2.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think they got it right. Like, people that are saying 5 or 6, I think, like, come on, that's
a bit over the top.
I think that's over the top. Like,
that's up there with like what Tom Stewart hitting someone a couple of years ago. He got 6 weeks for it. Yeah, I don't think that's the same.
And also, I don't want to bring these sort of things up, but that's how much players have got for homophobic slurs and stuff. Like, you know, that's horror. That's not needed in the game. But, you know, that, I think they got it right. I don't think it's 6 weeks, 5 weeks worth of not playing because of wiping blood. Yes, it's not right.
The reason he gave for doing it is because it's Essendon players were saying he flopped. And he was showing.
Yeah, and then he's like, you know, and they were saying, you know, he's wiped his blood, shit cunt and things like that. They were giving him shit. So,
which I mean, you know, we always hear that on the field anyway. But it does, like, I feel like you could show someone that you have blood coming out of your nose without wiping it on them. I think that is beyond gross, and
especially onto his face.
Yeah, it's like gross.
Like if he wipes it on the Guernsey, you know, yes, that's disrespectful. Yes, it's weak. But to go like actually physically touch him on the face is like. That's way over the top. You don't do that.
Exactly. I don't know what Tony Shue's on about. Like, you know, I don't know if he deserves weeks for it. Maybe a fine at most. It's like, what are you on about? Like, he's had some really bad calls the last couple of weeks.
2 weeks ago, he's like, with
he was like with the was it
the head taunting one?
Yeah, the head taunting one. He's like, it's such a woke decision. It's like, bro, why are you bringing a political word into this when it's just stupid? It's a stupid decision.
But and also, like, I think also Tristian Xerri came in with a guilty plea. He did admit that it was wrong. So that probably is. He may have been ended up being 4 or 5, but because he came in with the early, North Melbourne wanted 2, he wanted 2, but the AFL wanted 3 in the.
AFL 1, but I just can't believe that like people are like defending him for what he did. Like, people are getting soft these days. So many, I saw a lot of comments under that clip saying, "Yeah, you're right, Tony. The game's gone soft." It's like, when has it been okay to wipe blood on someone? It's like, you know, back in my day, you could punch someone in the face and. I mean, maybe a fine if that happened again now. Like, why? There's a reason why we've changed our, you know, perspective on that sort of stuff of how many injuries can happen. Like, obviously wiping blood on someone isn't going to give you CTE, but there are like blood transmitted, you know, stuff that you can give to other people, and it's just ridiculous that this is even an argument.
Yeah,
like it's even a contentious issue that people are like, you know, maybe you could have got away. Maybe you should just be fined for it. It's like, is that the same as like we're going to give a $10,000 fine? I mean, what was it? Dane Rampey climbed the post and got got a fine for it, or I think he called someone a girl. I think maybe that's what it was. He called someone a girl. He got a $20,000 fine, and I mean, maybe I think that was a bit over the top, to be fair. But it's a lot different that he wiped blood on someone. Like they can. Who knows what was in his blood as well? Fuck knows. I mean, the amount of times we hear about players taking drugs and all that sort of shit. Not that Tristian Xerri would do drugs, by the way, but like it's crazy how this even became an issue.
Yeah,
it shouldn't have even been a talking point. It should have been you shouldn't have done that. You're going to get weeks for it, and everyone should be like, fair enough. Anyway, that's our end of our Rate It or Hate It segment. So we move on from that. We get to the rule tweak that has been made going into this week. So, of course, it is the last disposal rule came into the game this season. I think it's actually worked pretty well, to be fair. It hasn't been too bad. Like, I thought at first it was going to be last touch. Last disposal, I think, is pretty fair. Hasn't really impacted many games. But on the weekend, of course, with the Crows game, it came off of Tom Atkins' foot. Went out of bounds, should have been a free kick to the Crows, wasn't paid. Crows are in uproar. Fair enough, but also suck it. As Port fans probably say.
Yeah, then Tom Atkins goes down the other end, and I think Ollie Dempsey kicks the goal to win basically
another goal in front.
Yeah.
So after the week of controversy, including an admitted AFL error, which just annoys me, them apologising days later, it's like, thanks for apologising. You're going to reschedule the game, or what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're going to do nothing. You're going to play the last minute after that happened, or
it's like, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, fair enough. I guess we'll just go fuck ourselves. So the AFL players diving for the ball after it is kicked or handballed by teammates towards the boundary line will have to show genuine intent to keep the ball in the ground, or they will be penalised for a free kick. So what a lot of teams are doing at the moment is, if you kick the ball an errant kick, it misses their target. If it is going to go out of bounds, instead of trying to obviously it's try and get that last touch be like a hand, like they will try to touch it, and then it's called a boundary throw-in. What the AFL is trying to tweak is that teams now, that if they're not trying to keep it in, if they're just trying to get a touch onto it, it's called insufficient intent. I mean, it's an okay rule change or rule tweak. I don't mind it necessarily. I just don't like the precedent that it sets that we can just tweak rules throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I don't like that at all. And we'll see what happens on Thursday night.
You watch how many times they will pay every single one that even a player tries to knock it back in, they're going to pay it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he tried to nail it. He gets his, he nails it, tries to go that knuckles and goes out. It's like, oh, that's not intent. So, and it's
the problem is we know what's going to happen. The umpires are going to overcorrect themselves. They're going to play a bunch of them. We're all going to get an up and up rage, every fan. And then the AFL will be like, oh, no, we made a mistake. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It only costs 2 teams a win. That's all right. Fair enough.
Just wait. It will happen like 5 weeks later again with the Crows play.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine what happens to the Crows this weekend. I feel like there'll be a bunch of Crows fans in front of Adelaide AFL House on Monday, surely. But we'll see how that plays out. But I just don't like the precedent it sets with rule tweaks. We saw it last year, I think, with was it holding the ball? Or was it the year before? I think it was maybe the year.
2 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah, with holding the ball, they changed it. They just changed a bunch of these rules on a whim at the end, like after a big controversy happens over the weekend. I just don't really like how they're setting this up. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out, though. Now, one thing I want to bring up before we get to the preview to the new round is Tasmania, who have done really well in the VFL so far. They've got 2 wins to start the season. They play, I think it's Frankston this week in the Dolphins. Yep. And I want to bring to you a scenario that I think would be very interesting, which is relegation versus promotion in the AFL. Honestly, right now, I think the Tasmania, the VFL team, could give Essendon a run for their money. I honestly think they have a chance against Carlton. What do you think about Tasmania early doors? It's
the way Essendon are playing at the moment. I wouldn't think that's a bad call, but they're 2 games in. They who have they really played? You don't know. It's the start of the season, things like that. You can know, but a bit like with Essendon, you know what they've got. They've got knee defense. How easy it is to slice through. That's basically the same problem that's been for like 3 years. Tasmania's played 2 games.
Yeah, I get it. It's fair. I mean, again, probably a bit of recency bias, but they actually look pretty good. They've got a couple of really good players on their list. Haven't got a full strength team. I think Robbie Fox is out at the moment, but a former Essendon player, Jai Menzies, is just absolutely dominating in the VFL for the Devils.
Is it another Patrick Voss kind of
scenario?
I
will be interested to see if how many players they use, because they're going to play in the VFL again next year before they come into the AFL in 2028. It'd be interesting to see how many VFL players do get listed, because GWS and the Gold Coast, I think, played in the NEAFL a year or 2 in advance. Yeah. And I think we saw Israel Folau play for the Giants in the reserves, which was very funny. I think he had a 5-goal game once, and everyone thought this was going to be the signing of the century. And then, I mean, how many games did he play? It wouldn't have been more than 20.
I think he even played 20 games.
I think Guy McKenna was forced to play Carmichael Hunt, but Kevin Sheedy was like, we are not playing Israel Folau, bro. Yeah. We are not playing this guy. Yeah. Are you kidding? We want to be seen as a serious team. I will be interested to see how they go, though, with the Devils this season in the VFL. They've started really, really well. They've got 2 wins. They do play, I think, Frankston this week. They've beaten Coburg, and they beat someone else in round 1. I can't remember who it was. It's interesting. I will be interested to see, when they play their first AFL reserves team, how they go. Yeah. So
I think that will be the first, sort of test.
Yeah. I mean, and as well, probably the other... They haven't really played any, the top VFL teams. You think, a Werribee or... Southport as well. Those are the top reserves teams kind of the last couple of years. So that will be a watch as well. But I honestly think if they brought back relegation and promotion, if we sat here in the VFL this part of the season and Essendon and Tasmania came up in a battle of the, similar to I think it's the Bundesliga, that play a promotion and relegation battle between the 18th or the 16th place team in the Bundesliga and then the 3rd place team in the Bundesliga 2 in soccer. If those 2 teams play off in a relegation matchup and whoever wins goes up, if they win, whoever wins goes into the Bundesliga. Yeah. If you played it right now, Tasmania's VFL team against Essendon's team, Zach Merritt would be the only way that would stop Essendon from getting relegated.
Yeah. Maybe Nate Caddy, but yeah.
I mean, I don't see a way that Essendon... we've talked about Essendon's list throughout this episode of the podcast, and I just don't see where they go from here. They've failed so many drafts. They've had so many issues with injuries. We saw last year, of course, how terrible they got ravaged by injury, and people thought it was going to change this year. I mean, they've gone worse. So it's a start of the season. Yeah, and I know we say this all the time that that they're not going to win a game. We said that with West Coast last year. They got a win. We said that with Richmond at the start of last year. They got a win. They got 5 wins in the end. But where is Essendon's win going to come from? Because they just don't care in defence. Ben Mackay is more than happy to just get his paycheck every single month and just walk away. Like I know everyone's seen the highlights already of him walking, and barely paying attention down in defence. I'll be interested to see if they actually make it, because I think Brad Scott said throughout the last week or something they're not going to drop players. They're going to hold on. They're going to stick fat. They're going to hold the truth. Similar to like I guess Chris Fagan, with how he stuck fat with Brisbane throughout the early parts of last year. But I just don't see a way that Essendon right now can build this team to something that can be relevant. Because remember, Tassie are going to come in 2 years. They're going to gut the draft pretty quickly with how much compensation, with how many draft picks they're going to get early. They've already started pretty well in the VFL. I know it is a league below and all that sort of stuff, but when they do that, how are Essendon going to be able to survive?
Yeah, and with being such a big Victorian club, that's the other situation about it, is that they're going to get so much scrutiny. They're already getting so much. In Victoria, you don't want to be a Carlton, Collingwood, or Essendon down the bottom.
Yeah, because you get the biggest scrutiny. It's going to be because also just think recruiting wise, who would want to go to them? Like, I mean, you're going to be scrutinised every single week as a bottom place team. Like, at least when you're Tom de Koning or whatever, I mean, at least you're playing for a team that's like mid-table sort of St Kilda at the moment. But even then, they're down the bottom. You see how much scrutiny St Kilda are getting. Yeah. Now imagine you being Essendon, being one of the big Victorian clubs. Like, you're one of the biggest. And I know people talk about they're not part of the big four anymore. I mean, that's more than fair, I would say. They're not anymore. It's probably Collingwood, Carlton, probably Carlton still. Hawthorn, Geelong probably are up there too. But it does beg the question, like, where does Essendon, how are they going to change? Because they're going to get probably, if things track this way, they're going to get a number 1 draft pick this season, which probably won't even be number 1 because we're already expecting that Dougie Cochran could go to Port Adelaide as a father-son. Yeah. Cody Walker likely linked to the Blues. So they drift out to maybe a pick 2 or 3, which means they don't get the best player in the draft. We saw the last time they had a number 1 pick, they picked Andy McGrath, which wasn't exactly a bad choice, but he's not a number 1 pick. We know that. Yeah. They probably should be targeting a key defender, but they're not going to be able to bring anyone in. They've been linked to a couple of players in the trade period already with Zach Bailey, but not really anyone of like Zach Bailey's not going to go there. There's no way in hell he go there. No. The Crows are offering the most amount of money. Who do you choose? The Adelaide Crows, who are in a window to even go again with even more money, or do you go to Essendon, where you're going to be down the bottom
in a big scrutiny of the Melbourne bubble and all that?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Adelaide Crows. Yeah. I mean, not to say that the South Australian bubble is exactly easy to deal with, but it's a little bit easier than Victoria, I would say.
And being at Essendon.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of sit here now, and I think that Tasmania would beat Essendon tomorrow. If they met at Marvel Stadium tomorrow, if they met down at North Hobart Oval, I'd give Tasmania, I'd put them almost as favourites. Anyway, that's what I think. Let's move on to the preview to the new round, of course. Big round coming up. Only 2 more teams have the bye. You got St Kilda and the Giants. Thank God the bye rounds are over. We're going to have to wait, 7 more weeks and they're back again?
Yeah, how beautiful our fixture goes.
Fucking opening round is such a joke. Anyway, let's move into the preview to round 4. The Easter long weekend, and we have some big games. We start with the Lions up against Collingwood, the traditional Easter Thursday contest, and both teams coming off of wins last week. Of course, the Lions winning their first game of the season after running away with it against the Saints in the final quarter, while Collingwood were able to secure a win after fighting it out against their young Giants lineup. Now, Brisbane should be expecting that Hugh McCluggage will be back this week, while Collingwood have a few injury concerns. We have Darcy Moore and Scotty Pendlebury, who will likely be out, and Jeremy Howe only having 1 game back. It'll be interesting to see how they will go, if they even will rest him after a 6-day break. And Collingwood, for me, look really underdone. Now, on Brisbane's point of view, the one thing that would concern me is the fact that in the Easter Thursday games, they've actually lost their last 2 against Collingwood, so a bit of a concern there. But getting to my tip, and I'm going to be going with the Lions. We saw little snippets of it against St Kilda last week, that they're starting to find a little bit of their best. And honestly, I don't really trust Collingwood at the moment, even though they did pick the Giants last week. On paper, with what GWS had to offer with their team, I honestly think they should have smashed them. And in the end, they won by 5 or 6 goals. Yes, it wasn't Marvel. It wasn't their home ground. God forbid they had to travel 40 minutes down the road. But
overall, I think that Brisbane look the better of the two sides, and I do trust them a bit more, so that's why I'm going with Brisbane this week. After that, we go to the Good Friday contest between North Melbourne and Carlton. Kangas coming off a win in the end, however, wasn't too convincing. It was a very scrappy contest against Essendon on Saturday night. However, let's talk about Carlton, because they are the team under the blowtorch this week. Conceded 14 goals against Melbourne after halftime. Basically conceded 15 goals in the second half, because Melbourne kicked a very late one to get themselves into the game, and Carlton faded once again. And I don't know what happens from here for Carlton. Like, I'm recording this Sunday afternoon. I feel like it's too early to sack Michael Voss, because so early in the season, it's pretty unprecedented in the AFL space that you fire a coach so early in the season, but there needs to be a circuit breaker here. Again, they just faded out of this game, and it was honestly embarrassing watching this game. Terrible from Carlton, and now they come into this game against the Roos, and North Melbourne should be going into this game as favourites. North Melbourne have hit good form. Yes, they've lost against West Coast a couple of weeks ago, but 2 wins in 3 games. North Melbourne haven't hit that in quite a while. They should be going into this game as favourites, and they should be going to win this one, but it's going to be a wait and see on that. But now let's get to my tip, and I tentatively am going to go with North Melbourne. I'm saying tentatively because they have shown time and time again in this game that they just don't play well in it, but I just can't tip Carlton. They have played so poorly so far this year. They got a win against Richmond, but they didn't even deserve to win that. I mean, you can't even say when Carlton have a good first half that they're going to go and win. They are holding their breath for the second half, and they just don't attack. They can't kick goals, and they can't win games. So I'm going to go with North Melbourne, and honestly, they need to win this game. To show that they've grown up and they're actually going to be a team that can compete maybe for a wildcard spot this year, they need to win this game. They're favourites. They deserve to be. Go and win it now, North. On Friday night, we have the Crows up against Fremantle. A big game, this one. Both teams will likely be contending for finals at the end of the year. Although, on Adelaide's point of view, they're currently 1-2, and after a loss against Geelong last week, they need to get their first win at home this season. While on the Dockers' point of view, even though they did drop a game in round 1, I think they've been absolutely outstanding so far this year. Now, they have had Melbourne and Richmond. This is probably one of the bigger tests that they will have so far to start the season, but they were very, very good last week, and the only thing that really hampered them was their scoring. I mean, it was a 13-goal 25 from Fremantle. If they switched that around, they absolutely smashed the Tigers. So even though it was a 60-point win, it honestly could have been more upwards of like 100. And looking at the record between these two teams, Fremantle have won 4 of their last 5. So, and a couple of them have been at Adelaide Oval. So it's not like playing away from home is really going to scare the Dockers, but it's going to be a big game, this one. But now on to my tip, and despite this being at Adelaide Oval, I'm still going to go with the Dockers. I've really liked Fremantle so far this year, and I think the Crows at the moment are just missing a trick. I don't really know what it is. They're not really playing their best football. It could be a couple of injuries, of course, and Dawson should be back this week. Honestly, I think this is a game for Fremantle to really show if they've grown. We thought it was in round 1 against the Cats. If they're really going to be a contender this year, Fremantle, they have to win these 50-50 games away from home, and I think they're ready to go. So I'm going to be picking the Dockers in a tight one. But finally, we get to the traditional Easter Monday clash between Hawthorn and Geelong. The Hawks have had a long layoff with their bye and haven't played since the Thursday a couple of weeks ago, so they're having a big break. But on the other hand, Geelong have had a pretty big break as well, obviously playing on Thursday night, having to wait all the way until the next Monday. Now, even though Hawthorn did have a bit of a tough start to the year in opening round, a poor game against the Giants, they've looked pretty good since. They had a win against Essendon, and then they did win against the Swans, and are in a pretty good spot before the bye. I will say against the Swans, though, they did run over them in the end after Sydney had a 5-day break, so I will be interested to see. I think this is their biggest test so far. While on Geelong's point of view, have had 2 strong outings in their last 2 games, and they've beaten good opposition in the Dockers and the Adelaide Crows. However, they have played both of those teams down in GMHBA. We know that Geelong are a 4-goal better side there. This will be their first game of the year at the G, so a big watch on that one. Now, looking at the recent record between these two sides, Geelong have won the last 5 games against Hawthorn, so Cats have the wood over Hawthorn. Bit of an interesting one, of course, the Kennett curse. Don't think that's back yet. Now, to my tip. And honestly, I think this is about a 50-50 game despite the record of Geelong, but I'm still going to be picking the Cats. Both teams have had lengthy layoffs, so I don't think that really plays a really big factor for either of these teams. And honestly, I just think I trust Geelong a little bit more over Hawthorn, especially if this game is won in the midfield. The Cats have so many people that can run through there, so many different dynamic players. Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, Tom Atkins if you want to go with something different. Oyston Mullen can tag a Hawthorn player if they need be. I think they've got so much through there, the Cats, that I just don't think Hawthorn can stop all the different avenues in that midfield group. And I think that if they can get it in forward line enough, Geelong, they'll win this game. But guys, let's get to our full tips for round 4. So my tips are Brisbane to beat Collingwood, North Melbourne to beat Carlton, the Dockers to beat the Crows, Richmond to beat Port Adelaide, Sydney to beat the West Coast Eagles, the Gold Coast to beat Melbourne, the Dogs to beat Essendon, and then the Cats to beat Hawthorn. My certainty tip for this week is the Tigers to beat Port Adelaide. Of course, the Tigers losing last week to Fremantle. And my brother's full tips for round 4 are Brisbane to beat Collingwood, North Melbourne to beat Carlton, the Crows to beat Fremantle, Richmond to beat Port Adelaide, the Swans to beat the West Coast Eagles, the Gold Coast to beat Melbourne, Dogs to beat Essendon, and then Hawthorn to beat the Cats. Now, my brother's certainty tip for this week is the Swans to beat West Coast. Of course, the Swans losing their last game to Hawthorn, and he got the first pick this week, which is why he got the first pick of picking the Swans over West Coast. Although in saying that, West Coast have looked good the last 2 weeks, and my brother is pretty disappointed. Don't know if he'll be in the podcast this week because of how poor Port Adelaide played against the Eagles last week, but we'll have to wait and see.
So, of course, guys, now we get to our AFL fantasy segment for the episode, and honestly, had a pretty decent week regarding most things. Big score from both my recruits of the week was both the Dacos brothers, Josh Dacos with the 120, Nick Dacos obviously 140. Then we had a couple of other players, including Windsor, who had 96. That was a brilliant performance from him. Archie Roberts got 82. Jagger Smith with the 85. Got Sam Walsh with the 105. Caleb Sarong, after having a terrible start to the game, got 124. Willem Dersma, someone that you skipped over, he got 85 in the end. Oh, 86, sorry. Lockie McAndrew getting 92. Definitely made the right decision of picking him as a third ruck, which we'll get to in a minute. Harry Sheasel swapped him to be the captain. He got 272. Flanders did all right with 94. Josh Rochelli, who had a disappointing opening game in my team last week, got 114.
Because, he got more midfield time, I think. He got a lot more midfield time.
Yeah, especially with Dawson out. And then Braden Cook with the 83. Blackiston came into the team, scored his highest for the year with the 70, with Trent Rivers being out. So he will be one of my trades in a moment. Now, a couple of lower lights. Start with Devon Robertson, 41. Not great. And then also has got suspended for this week. So I think it's going to hamper. I think it's about 80% of people own Devon Robertson. So, yeah, I mean, that's hampering a lot of people, especially with the buys, with a lot of people having St Kilda and GWS forwards. Filippo, still got him in my team. Did score 69, which is his best score of the year, but not ideal. Luke Jackson's kind of dropped off after a brilliant opening first round. He's on 81. Tanner Bruin got 53. That wasn't ideal. You want more than that out of him. And that's pretty much the only ones that I had bad going into this week. I think I've had an overall good week, and my overall score was 1,874, which was ranked 5,792 for the round. But let's move to your team.
A lot of the players that you've talked about. Parrish again, horrible. Got to try and get rid of him. Trent Rivers being dropped over the weekend didn't help, and I kind of just left him on the bench and just took that hit. I took Sheasel's vice captain score. I thought, 136. I had Butters as my captain. I thought, I'll take 136, 272 out of it. I had Blamirez, I think 75. I think that's what you're happy with. The Jagger Smith with an 85, that's pretty good.
You had Sam Lawler still, didn't you?
Yeah, Sam Lawler 67. It's like,
did you see what he had at quarter time?
He was on like 30 odd, like 40 odd, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's about 40 at quarter time.
Yeah, I looked at it like, is he even playing?
Did he get injured? Why is there no out label next to his name?
Yeah, and then just it was a decent week. I'm not really happy with it. There's a lot of players that scored well. Jack Steele again scored well. You're happy with the Sam Walsh 105, but I don't really like the fact is that Lockie McAndrew scored more than Luke Jackson. It's like you'd like the rookie to just bump up that score, like the Luke Jackson experienced player to bump up that score.
I would have considered maybe trading out Luke Jackson this week or next week, but now there is talk that Riley O'Brien is going to be coming in after a really good game in the Sandful on the weekend for the Crows reserve. So that's why I kind of I am happy I've got Jackson now because at least I don't have to make that decision to go up from McAndrew if that selection is made.
Yeah, I'd rather go down from McAndrew than go up.
Yeah, and try and get someone else.
What that is. My round 3 score was 1769, ranked about 34,000. So it was a horrible week.
Oh, so really. You're like 30,000 worse than me.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, let's get to our trades then. So for the trades this week, I have gone with Jack Carroll out, Watkins in for Port Adelaide, and I've got rid of Trent Rivers and picked up Jaden Shaw. Now, The reason why I got rid of Carroll is one, because he's got the bye, and two, I can't see his price going up more. He's got too much more. He's got 479 on his price, which I think is not going to go much more. Maybe he'll get to 500k. I can't see it going up any more than that. But I do see Watkins going up higher. He's at 408k right now, and he looks like he's not going to lose his spot at Port Adelaide. Carroll also looks like he could lose his spot at the Saints. So that's why I've gone with Watkins, and I think he's got more price generation. It was a little bit cheap. It was a 70k into the bank from that trade, so that's not too bad. Yeah. Trent Rivers, I got rid of because of the dropping. I think Windsor, I was going to get rid of Windsor, but I held on to him because I think with that score, at least his price can go up a little bit more. And I got Jaden Short. Would have probably gone higher with like a Lockie Ash or a Jack Sinclair, but because they got the bye this week, I thought with someone who is just over $1 million, Jaden Short, averaging 113 right now, I think that's a pretty good bet that he's going to be okay for the rest of the season. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now. Still have 293 left in the kitty, so that's pretty good going into next week when we finally get every team back again for gather round. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my team. So what are you looking at this week with your trades?
So I've just got sick and tired of Tarsi Parish.
I think everyone has.
I think
I'm just happy sitting here now with Darcy Parish. Everyone was like, he's going to be back to an All-Australian form, and he's done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I've just given up. Basically, like all of Essendon, I've given up on him. He's already drained me 20k. I know, and then I got rid of Trent Rivers after he was dropping last week, and the fact is that Melbourne played well. Why would you change that, really? Yeah. I got in Shea Bolton. I think he's playing really good football.
Yeah, I looked at his CBA numbers, and he's had it a lot for Freo in the last couple of weeks. That is good to see.
And I was going to get Cozzy Pickett, but I didn't have enough for him. And I got also in Colby McKercher. I think that game on the weekend, he's got the right back to the right role he had in pre-season before the injury. And his break-even is low. And I think it's the time now to grab him now before he gets too much. And at the moment, he's only 750. So,
I think it's probably a good time to get him in then.
And at the moment, I've got 89k left in the kitty. Next week, I've still got Petrarca, which I'm hoping to get rid of next week. And with, obviously, everyone coming back next week, teams-wise, no buyers, into gather round, you got everyone to look at. Yeah. It's looking good, so...
Yeah, so I think probably next week, if Caleb Windsor does score poorly, that's probably the big play that I'm going to look at to maybe get rid of. But other than that, most of my team's looking pretty decent right now. I'm pretty happy with how it's going. Also with my captain, I've gone vice captain on Harry Sheasel. I think he will score well against Carlton. He always does. But Tim English is my captain at the moment.
I've done the same.
Yeah, against Essendon, that's just, I think, bound for a good score.
Yeah, I think
that... Knock on wood.
Yeah, I think Blackenston's like...
A pretty easy player to score against.
I don't think he's the ruckman. I don't know if they should give Vizentini another shot.
I think he's actually injured at the moment. Which
is and then I don't have anyone, and it's like I don't think he has the build for the ruckman role, Blackenston.
Yeah. So let's move into looking at the ladder for the channel quickly. First of all, we're looking at the Open League, and I jumped back into the top 50, so I'm in the group now in 39th spot. So
I think I drifted out, obviously.
So you at the moment are in 20th.
Yeah, so I dropped, I think, 3 spots.
Not too bad.
I thought I would have dropped a lot more than that, but I think,
So, looking at the top player in the group, it looks like we have Harry Potter, don't know the rest of the name, but he is stuck into top spot, which is good to see. Mr. Crunch Time has jumped into second. Three-Peats dropped to third, and Swans were all in fourth. I think he was in third last week, so a little bit of a drop-off there. But pretty happy with that 39th. I'll take that at the moment when I was outside the top 50 last week. I actually had one of the highest scores in the league for the channel. I'm trying to quickly see if you can actually sort it. I tried to check it earlier in the week, but the thing doesn't work. So a lot of people got 1,900 in our league, so that's pretty decent. In our head-to-head league, though, I did look, and I scored the highest from the channel. So currently, in the head-to-head league, you are in 9th right now, with 1 win as well. You must have just a little bit of a higher score than me. How much more of a score do you have? I mean, bloody hell, you got 54. So it's pretty close. And we have a pretty similar teams looking at it right now, too.
Yeah, because you got Jaden Short in this week, which I got last week. So
I mean, I just had to take some inspiration.
And I'm sure you'll get Colby McKercher in next week when he scores well again.
Well, hopefully. But I mean, if you jinx him and he gets shit, then at least I've avoided that sort of issue anyway. So yeah, I'm in 10th at the moment. Moving into the games for next week, though, I played Delusional Fools. He is in 14th spot right now without a win, and he's one of 3 teams who haven't got one. And one of those teams is a guy who's got a full Gold Coast lineup, and obviously got 0 last week because he didn't have a score. Didn't didn't have a player, so I wish I.
Why
played
couldn't I play play in that week?
Yeah, I mean, who's he got this week anyway? What's his name? Finney. He's playing Mad Mate Dave, bro. Got an easy walk-up win, that guy. But when the buys come, he could get one win when the buys come in the Gold Coast player games. He may get a win. That'd be exciting. There's a guy as well. Looking at the ladder, the top player right now is Nordic Sun, who he's stuck to first spot, which is good to see. He's got a score of 5,623. So, looking at the head-to-head league right now, there's not a lot separating people in terms of scores. It's usually pretty close matchups, which is good to see. Oliver Stinks, which is in second, very nice name. He's jumped up to second. Butters My Buns in third, gotta love that one. And then the Cox Long. I think he beat me in the first round, and that's my favourite name.
Yeah.
So the Cox Long, that's my favourite, and he's sitting in fourth. So if I can't win it, hopefully that he can get it done. But guys, it's pretty much all we have for the footy for this episode of the podcast. We get to a little bit of world sport before we end. And before we get into the soccer, I wanted to quickly mention the fact that the South Australian, the Redbacks, won. Wait, are they called the Redbacks anymore?
No.
Why are they not called the Redbacks anymore?
Because they want to be more professional, so they just went back to just being the sacker.
Whatever. Anyway, they won the Shield. They won back-to-back after 29 years without winning one. They go back-to-back. Alex Carey, I think, was it one of his first few games of the Shield?
No, he's played about five or six games over the course of the season. Oh, maybe 4 or 5 actually. But yeah,
got a century to get us.
So he's back-to-back centuries in the last 2 finals. So
definitely Australia's best keeper.
Yeah, there's no doubting that now.
Yeah,
surely.
I mean, you got to ask we've had some big keepers in the past. You got Adam Gilchrist to basically change the game. Then you got Brad Haddon. Then Tim Payne for a little bit, not ideal, and then Alex Carey. Is he going to go sit third now, or maybe even goes to second with Brad Haddon? Or I think he sits at probably third.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
this is in our lifetime.
He'd be in the top. Yeah, 3.
Yeah,
in our lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously got a lot older ones, but I can't really. I mean, obviously, I don't remember any of them. But yeah, watching cricket, that was brilliant from them. And then Australia knocked over Victoria for 139.
Yeah,
very good to see. Away from home as well, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that was good, and I think I heard over the radio. Is it Ryan Harris who coaches the Saka? So there's the Australian fast bowler.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that, but good to see that we won 2 in a row. I mean, we're obviously the greatest state in the country.
Yeah.
Starting to like South Australia now. It took me a very long time to get around to it, but good win from us. Let's move to a little bit of soccer before we end today's episode. And the European playoffs for the World Cup, the last 4 spots are up for grabs. So Wales lost to Bosnia. So Bosnia will play Italy, who got over North Ireland. Ukraine lost to Sweden. So Sweden have gone through and will play Poland, who beat Albania. Kosovo, which I hope they get through. Little known European country. They beat Slovakia and they played Turkey, and who beat Romania. So Turkey versus Kosovo. And finally, Ireland got beaten. I think it's 28 years now Ireland have not made the World Cup. They got beaten against Czech Republic. They played Denmark, who beat Macedonia. I think it's Macedonia. North Macedonia. So final playoff matches, you got Italy up against Bosnia, Poland against Sweden, Kosovo against Turkey, and then Czech Republic against Denmark. I don't know if you've really followed much of it at all.
Not really, but
So we get one of these teams in our group.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. We avoid these ones, do we? I thought we get one of them. I'm pretty sure we get
Kosovo, Turkey. Sorry,
yeah.
Kosovo.
So we're hoping
Turkey.
for Kosovo definitely
Yeah.
now.
So yeah, we want Kosovo. Yeah, we want Kosovo. Sorry, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's very unlikely.
I think. What are we going? So if Italy don't make it this year, it's
12 years.
Will be 12 years without being in the World Cup.
From the sport that is basically known as Italian, like everyone knows that. Like I would link a lot of soccer to Italy, like very early on in your life, and they may be missing it again after. Well, they fucking deserve it too. They fucking did. What was it back in 2006 or whatever?
Yeah. We still hold on to that one.
Yeah, so fucking hopefully they miss again. Early tips: I'm gonna go Italy over Bosnia.
Yeah. Sadly,
Poland and Sweden will be an interesting one. I'll go. Poland.
I think Poland. I think Sweden. Yeah, well, without Alexander Isak, even with him, they've struggled. So
yeah, I think they only just got through. The only reason why they even got to this point was because they had a very good the Euros, good result in the Euros. So that's why they got to this point and they beat Ukraine. I mean, it looks like Turkey will win.
I think Turkey. Sadly, I think Turkey. Yeah, with the hostile Turkish
supporter base.
Supporter base. You would think that they'd be too hostile for Kosovo.
And then Czech Republic against Denmark. I feel like Denmark, but Czech Republic
always have been a team that fight above their weight.
Yeah, kind of like a mini version of Croatia. But after that point, that's when almost everyone will be decided. And I did see as well that New Zealand recently beat I think they beat Chile. Yeah, so that's a big win for New Zealand. They'll be in the World Cup for the first time in a very long time. God, I hope we beat America. Hopefully,
that's the only one I want to win. I don't care about anything else.
If we get through to the next round, that'd be awesome as well. But if we can beat America on their own turf, that would be fucking brilliant.
Oh yeah, and the amount of crap that they've spilled over just since the draw has been amazing.
Yeah,
since I think
considering they're fucking not even doing that well themselves.
Yeah, I think they just lost 5-2 at home for the worst result. Yeah, the worst result. It's either ever or since 2000, something like that. It's like that is hilarious.
They're just acting like they're fucking like a team that actually has a chance. Which I mean, in a World Cup, you probably got a little bit more of a chance when it's at home. But you're not gonna win the whole thing. Acting like they were so happy that they got Australia, and I mean, obviously you understand, like based on rankings and stuff, you understand that like having Australia, you're like, oh great. But I mean, when you kind of think about it, Australia have always been the country that fight above their own weight. And we got all the way to the round of 16 in last World Cup with.
And we nearly. Well, it's not like we nearly beat Argentina, but we were close to really.
I think 60 minutes in, we were a chance.
Yeah, and then we nearly had a chance to draw.
Yeah, get it to extra time.
Yeah,
but, I mean, we're never going to beat Argentina.
No.
Anyway. Guys, that's pretty much all we have for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe over on YouTube and over on Spotify. Make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.